Gate 2. Feeling the waters that were never allowed to flow. Once the first gate begins to stabilize, something remarkable happens. The nervous system no longer spends every moment scanning the horizon for danger. The body begins to exhale. A small amount of energy, once consumed by survival, becomes available for something entirely different. Feeling. This is why the second gate cannot be approached before the first. If a person does not feel safe, they will not willingly open the door to emotions they have spent years trying to suppress. The psyche is intelligent. It protects us from what it believes would overwhelm us. Many people become frustrated because they feel stuck in their healing. They wonder why they continue attracting the same relationships, repeating the same emotional reactions, or sabotaging opportunities that could genuinely change their lives. They believe they need more knowledge, more affirmations, more spiritual practices. Yet often the answer is much simpler. The river has reached the second gate, but the gate remains closed. Until it opens, the current cannot continue its ascent. If the first gate asks, "Am I safe?" the second asks, "Is it safe for me to feel?" This question quietly shapes almost every human life. Many of us were never taught emotional literacy. We were taught emotional management. We learned which emotions pleased others, which emotions created conflict, which emotions embarrassed our parents, which emotions caused rejection. Children are extraordinary observers. Long before they understand psychology, they become experts at reading emotional climates. A child quickly discovers, when I cry, Dad becomes angry. When I express fear, Mom tells me not to be silly. When I become excited, someone tells me to calm down. When I speak honestly, I am punished. Slowly, the child reaches an unconscious conclusion. Feeling is dangerous. The safest option becomes emotional suppression, not because the child is weak, because the child is adapting. Every adaptation is an act of survival. The tragedy is not that we adapted. The tragedy is that many adults continue living by rules written for children. The second gate governs emotion, relationship, creativity, pleasure, desire, and connection. It is the great river of human experience. Unlike thought, emotion was never designed to become permanent. Emotion is movement. The very word itself hints at its purpose. Energy. In motion. Imagine a river flowing through a valley. When it moves freely, the land flourishes. When a dam blocks the current, pressure begins building behind it. The water has not disappeared. It has simply lost its movement. Human emotion follows the same law. Sadness is meant to move. Joy is meant to move. Anger is meant to move. Grief is meant to move. Love is meant to move. When movement stops, pressure replaces flow. Eventually, that pressure begins expressing itself in unexpected ways. Anxiety, numbness, compulsive behavior, addiction, perfectionism, people-pleasing, emotional withdrawal, overthinking. Each becomes another attempt to manage a river that simply wants permission to flow. One of the greatest misconceptions about healing is that we must eliminate emotion. Nothing could be further from the truth. Emotion is not the enemy. Unprocessed emotion is. There is tremendous wisdom within every feeling. Fear asks us to examine safety. Anger points toward violated boundaries. Grief honors what mattered. Joy reminds us what nourishes the soul. Shame reveals where identity became entangled with judgment. Every emotion carries information. Problems arise when we mistake information for identity. Feeling afraid does not mean you are a fearful person. Feeling grief does not mean you are broken. Feeling anger does not mean you are an angry soul. Emotion visits. Identity remains. Confusing the two keeps the second gate locked. Many people become trapped because they fear what lies beneath their emotional armor. They believe that if they allow themselves to cry, they may never stop. If they finally acknowledge the betrayal, the abandonment, the rejection, the loneliness, they fear the pain will consume them. Yet experience repeatedly teaches the opposite. What we resist persists. What we allow begins to transform. Suppression is like trying to hold a beach ball beneath the surface of water. It requires constant effort. The moment attention weakens, the ball surges upward again. Many spend decades exhausting themselves holding emotional truth beneath awareness. Healing simply invites us to stop fighting gravity. Notice how often life creates opportunities to revisit unfinished emotional material. A friend disappoints you. The reaction feels far larger than the event itself. Someone ignores your message. Old feelings of abandonment awaken. A partner becomes distant. Childhood loneliness suddenly returns. Life is rarely punishing us. Life is revealing us. The event itself is seldom the entire source of our pain. The present merely touches something unfinished from the past. The second gate understands this deeply. Every emotional trigger becomes an invitation rather than a sentence. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we begin asking, "What older wound is asking to be seen?" The answer often surprises us. One unresolved emotion rarely remains isolated. The psyche builds protective layers around it. Imagine grief hidden beneath shame. Shame hidden beneath anger. Anger hidden beneath control. Control hidden beneath perfectionism. Perfectionism hidden beneath achievement. Achievement hidden beneath identity. Eventually, the original wound becomes almost invisible. People begin admiring the mask while the wounded child quietly waits beneath it. Healing reverses this process, not by destroying the mask, by gently removing it, layer by layer, without judgment, without haste. Truth has no need to rush. Many spiritual traditions speak of purification. Often this has been misunderstood as becoming emotionally detached. The second gate teaches something entirely different. Purification means allowing every false attachment to dissolve until only truth remains. This includes emotional attachments, attachment to resentment, attachment to victimhood, attachment to guilt, attachment to being misunderstood, attachment to proving our worth. These identities quietly consume enormous amounts of energy. The moment they loosen, vitality returns. Not because we gained more energy, because we stopped investing it in maintaining emotional prisons. Creativity also belongs to this gate. This is no accident. Emotion and creativity arise from the same river. When emotion freezes, creativity often follows. Many people tell themselves, "I'm just not creative." Usually this is untrue. They are emotionally guarded. Creativity requires vulnerability. To create anything meaningful is to risk rejection. To paint, to write, to sing, to dance, to love. All require openness. The second gate reminds us that creation is not merely producing something beautiful. Creation is allowing life to move through us without excessive interference. Children understand this naturally. They create before judging. Adults often judge before creating. Healing reverses the order. Relationships reveal the condition of the second gate more clearly than almost anything else. Every relationship becomes a mirror, not because the other person causes our wounds, but because they illuminate where healing remains unfinished. This is why the same emotional themes often appear in different faces, different names, different cities, different decades, yet strangely familiar dynamics. Until the lesson is integrated, the psyche continues presenting variations of the same invitation, not as punishment, as opportunity. When we change internally, different relationships become possible because different energy begins leaving the nervous system. The leak starts closing. Forgiveness is often misunderstood here. Forgiveness is not pretending harm never occurred, nor is it excusing abuse. Forgiveness is releasing the emotional contract that keeps the nervous system tied to yesterday. As long as resentment dominates our inner landscape, part of our life force remains invested in the past. The second gate gently asks, how much energy is still feeding experiences that no longer exist? This question is rarely comfortable, but it is deeply liberating, because whatever receives our attention receives our energy. Healing gradually redirects attention toward life rather than survival. One of the most profound practices within this gate is simply learning to sit with emotion without immediately trying to change it. Observe sadness. Notice where it lives in the body. Observe anger. Feel its heat without acting upon it. Observe grief. Allow the tears to become movement rather than resistance. This is emotional alchemy. The emotion itself begins completing its natural cycle. The nervous system discovers something revolutionary. Feelings can be experienced without destroying us. Each completed emotional cycle teaches the body a new truth. I can survive this. Eventually, that truth becomes, I can trust myself. As more emotional energy begins moving naturally, the river strengthens. The spine feels different. Breathing changes. Creativity quietly returns. Music touches places that once felt numb. Nature seems more alive. Relationships become less about filling emptiness and more about sharing wholeness. The need to control gradually softens. Life begins feeling less like something to manage and more like something to participate in. This is the second gate beginning to awaken. The waters are no longer stagnant. They are moving again. Not perfectly, not constantly, but honestly. And honesty is always stronger than suppression. Eventually, another subtle shift occurs. Emotion no longer dictates identity. You may still experience sadness, but sadness no longer becomes your name. You may still experience anger, but anger no longer becomes your personality. You become the witness rather than the storm. The river still flows, yet something deeper remains undisturbed beneath its surface. This quiet center prepares us for the next ascent. Because once safety has been restored and emotion has begun flowing again, the current naturally approaches the third gate, the place where identity itself must be examined, the place where power has either been surrendered or reclaimed. For many people, this is where the greatest battle begins, not with the world, but with the story they have believed about themselves. The river is ready. Now it seeks the fire.